Hi again. This is no ordinary voice of spiritual ventriloquism. You are listening to the dummy himself. Well, you know, last Shabbat, been talking about a few things. Been hitting a few things on Facebook, trying to bring some clarity to definitions here. You know, one of the things I want to bring clarity to on definition is is the word concubine. You know, and that's not what this video is about, but I just wanted to throw that in there. The word concubine, I don't believe fits this modern construct we're living in. I know a lot of people use it. A lot of people have a tendency to try to throw that off as, you know, I have a wife and I have a concubine. That's not, I don't believe that really fits this construct. It's just me, it's just personal. Y'all do your own due diligence and research, come to your own conclusions, fine by me. Anyway, and the reason I don't think that's a good fit is because slavery is illegal today. They call it human trafficking. And in most countries, it's a felony. But anyway, the fact that, I mean, besides that fact, you know, there's other words we can use. You know, mistress, consort, significant other. We got a lot of things we can do with that, I guess. But anyway, I don't want to get too much of the world with the significant other. But anyway, you know, so anyway, that's why I don't believe it. But that's not what this video is about. What I want to talk about is definitions. You know, I hear people talk about polygamy as being nasty. Polygamy is a, what do you say? It's when women have more than one husband, or it can also mean that. And I think that's because, you know, I've heard that before. I've heard it a long time. And yeah, you can go, by golly, you can go right on the, you know, the search engine on Google and pull it up, and by golly, it's right there. You know, so who can dispute it, right? There's only one problem. The definition says as, you know, a man or a woman who has more than one spouse, or whatever. Well, the problem I have with that is that that definition doesn't fit the construct of the earlier late Bronze, or even earlier Iron 1 or Iron 2 age of Israel, which is where we get all of our, you know, our customs and traditions, really late Bronze, early Bronze. You know, so we don't, you know, it doesn't fit because, you know, a woman having more than one husband back in those days was, you know, that was unthinkable. So, you know, I don't see how we can try to change the definition of the term when really what we're pursuing is to be a restoration of biblical practice. Okay, all right. So anyway, the whole point of this video is to explain the difference between polygamy and polygyny, okay? And from my research, the definitions that I've come up with is polygamy is a man who has more than one spouse, mate, whatever, all right? And, you know, that basically is pretty much the definition. But there's also the other definition is, you know, polygyny, okay? We have to understand that when we're using the word gammy, we're talking about marriage, okay? Universally accepted, you can look it up. The word gammy is basically talking about marriage. Gyny is basically talking about a genetic perpetuation or the creation of a social, economic, military, or political order, or all the above. So, you know, so I looked into this, and I looked back into late Bronze Age Israel, early Bronze Age Israel, and through the Torah, through the writings, especially paying particular attention to the Levites versus the Israelites and trying to make a distinction between the two. Okay, the difference between polygamy and polygyny knowing that polygamy is just a man's natural right to exercise his manliness by having more than one spouse, parking his car in more than one garage. Okay? So, but the difference of that is that of the difference between the two, polygamy and polygyny, is a third word I'm going to bring into this equation, and that's called endogamy. Okay? Now let me give you the correct definition first of when a woman has more than one husband. That's called polyandry. Okay, and that is actually still practiced today in China, in the farming villages, some of the farming villages, because it's more of a matriarchal system, and also in the originally amongst the Plains Indians, and maybe still to this day on the reservations. I don't know. I haven't been there. Somebody could say something better than that, but I do know that they were polyandrous back then. So anyway. The distinction between polygamy and polygyny is endogamy. Endogamy means that you marry only among your own tribe, clan, village, kind of extended family or whatnot. And that is exactly how Yah set up the tribes of Israel. He established borders of their dominion. He gave them tribal allotments and land in which they divided up into tribal areas and families. Okay, so they would marry within their own people, and that is only natural because of the social construct that they had. It was only in their best interest that they marry amongst their own people, because in ascendancy of patriarchy, you might be a captain of 50 or a captain of 10 or a captain of hundreds or 500s, or you might be a tribal leader. And all of that was predicated on how many sons you could throw into battle, how many servants you could actually muster to go into battle. So, yeah, it wasn't into their tribal interest to do a lot of intermarrying, and I really don't see, haven't found many examples of that going on in Scripture as far as the 11 tribes, much at all. So that was, they were endogamists, so they were polygynous. They were perpetuating their genetics within their tribal construct and order, and that honestly was by divine fiat. Now, when it comes to the Levites, they were also, you would have to say, that they were polygynist as well, because, obviously they're going to marry in and out of these priestly families, because they were kind of a priestly royal order of the tribes of Israel. They were separate. They had no tribal allotment. In all the suburbs that they dwelt in throughout the land is actually what actually made them more polygynous, because also by divine fiat and edict, the Levites were allowed to marry anyone in the nation. They could take any daughter of Israel as long as they were a virgin. And by fact that they were already stationed in their little suburbs in each tribal allotment area, you can see where they were more polygamist, more so than the rest of the tribes of Israel. Not saying that the 11 tribes didn't marry outside their tribe, but that was probably the exception, and it probably had more to do with political, affinities between, families that were living along border areas. You got sheep and all that stuff moving around, Those are the kinds of things that might come into play in a situation like that. So, no, polygamy's not nasty. If you use the modern definition, yeah, it could be, but polygamy's not nasty. It is just a man's right to exercise his manliness by virtue of the way he was created to be. Okay? So anyway, I hope that clears things up for you a little bit. The difference between polygyny and polygamy is endogamy and the extent to which that is practiced. Okay? All right. Well, shalom. Have a good day. Peace.